One. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is so wonderful to be with you on this Shabbat. We begin our service on page 323.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borechem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borechem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borechem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Join me, third verse. Barchuni, Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Last chance, here we go. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We continue to bring in the Shabbat by lighting our candles, our two candles, and I'd like to invite Alex and Eti to please help us with the candle lighting this Shabbat. שלוש. תקראי מפה לתוך המיקרופון. מפה? כן.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generation of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
אמן. תדליק את הנרות, תדליק, מי שרוצה. מי שרוצה לשחק באש.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קדשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
שבת שלום. תודה. Please join me on page 8. 8. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other. To work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We continue with Lecha Dodi on page 20.
Lecha Dodi לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה בני שבת נקבלה שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ותפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת קלה בני שבת נקבלה בני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם ניסוך סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלה פני שבת נקבלה
I invite you to please rise and face the entrance as you are able.
בואי ושלום, עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמונה, עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לכד אותי לקראת חלה, הנה שבת, הנה שבת, נקבלה. הנה שבת, הנה שבת, נקבלה, נקבלה.
We remain standing and continue with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ויעלמא דברה חירותי, וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב ואמרו,
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם לעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן ביעלמה, וימרו.
Amen.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. יאי לי
Please join me as we read together at the top of page 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Le'olam Avad.
We read together. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. You may be seated, and we continue with the V'ahavta.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך, וחיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We read together at the top of 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך באים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה פלא, נורא מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי, אנו ויעמדו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
We continue on page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרי לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום
השכיבנו
שומרי אלוהינו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום והעמידנו שומרי אלוהינו לחיים. העמידנו שומרינו לחיים. I invite you to please rise as you are able for the Amidah on page 46.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה. רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, בחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, איש עיני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated. Continue on page 61. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום.
שלום רע ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רע ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום וטוב Baruch atah Adonai, amvarech et amo Yisrael, b'shalom.
We continue silently.
Adnim zemirot v'shirim erot, ki elecha nafshi tarot, ki elecha nafshi tarot. נפשי חמדה בצל ידך, לדעת, לדעת, קורא סודך. כי אליך, כי אליך, כי אליך, נפשי תערוק. כי אליך, כי אליך, כי אליך, נפשי תערוק. מדר דברי בכבודך, אומרי בי אל דודך, אומרי בי, אומרי בי. על כן נדבר וכנה בדעות, בשמך כבד בשירי ידידות. כי אליך, כי אליך, כי אליך, נפשי תערוק. כי אליך, כי אליך, כי אליך, נפשי תערוק.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Nice to see everybody, and welcome to those who are live streaming. As I'm sitting in my seat for the first half of the service and looking around, it occurs to me, it probably does to you too, that the beauty of the outside with which we have such intimacy with the wonder of these many windows complements the beauty and the warmth of inside. Really, inside and outside complement one another and add to the joy of our time together. I hope you feel that as I do. Well, we are now in the 8th Torah portion of the book of Leviticus's 10 portions, 2 away from the end. And for those of you who do not love the book of Leviticus, you'll be happy to know that the 2 final portions are combined next week. So we don't have to wait until a 3rd week to get to the next book of the book of Numbers. For those of you, and I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, who along with me love the book of Leviticus, are going to be sorry to see it go. But one of the wonders of our Jewish tradition is, once we leave it, we know we're coming back to it next year. all 10 portions, one can hope, over 10 weeks and not 9. Well, in our Torah portion for this week and more, from Leviticus chapter 22, we have a verse that is really remarkable in its audacity. And I want to read it to you, and then I want to think about it out loud. Here's the verse. You shall faithfully observe my commandments. I am the Lord. You shall not profane my holy name, that I may be sanctified in the midst of the Israelite people. The verb sanctified is in the passive voice. That I may be sanctified by you. The you here, contrary to what we might expect, which is a book that focuses on the priests, the leaders of the worship, the you here is the people of Israel, all the people, including us. You shall not profane my holy name, that I may be sanctified in the midst of the Israelite people. And a midrash draws out some of the astonishing, really, implications of this idea. On the verse, you are my witnesses, says the Lord, that I am he. The midrash says in the name of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, if you are my witnesses, I am God. If you are not, as it were, I am not God. It's up to us to sanctify God. Now, the verse doesn't say sanctify God, it says sanctify God's name. God is inherently, objectively, eternally sanctified. But God's name is something we have control over. And if we don't sanctify God's name, God, as it were, in the Hebrew, kivyachol, if I could really say so, God's name is not sanctified. How, the Midrash continues, can we carry out this awesome task of sanctifying the name of God? We, finite, mortal creatures who are here but for a moment in the vast eternity that preceded us and will follow us. How can we sanctify God's name, or the supreme source of sanctity itself? God's name, I want to suggest, is the way in which God's name is used in the world. That is God's reputation. God's reputation is caught up in the idea that there are perennially supreme values, that there are objectively correct actions, that there are worthy goals. The goal is, you shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Our vocation is to climb the ladder of holiness toward God, whose name we carry through our actions. How can we carry out this awesome task of sanctifying the name of God, of being a witness to God's existence and sovereignty? And I'm suggesting to you that God's sovereignty is to be recognized in the presence of values, which we, through enacting those values, make real in the world. And when we make them real, we make God's name, the source of values, real. How can we carry out this awesome task of sanctifying the name of God, being a witness to God's existence and sovereignty? The answer is through our actions. And I want to take as an example the very famous maxim, "You shall love your neighbor as yourself." What does it mean to love our neighbor? We think of love often as an emotion, as the pitter-patter within our hearts. Here's Maimonides on the meaning of this action. Maimonides offers practical advice on how loving one's neighbor is to be fulfilled. He does not write about actually loving or even liking the other person. Rather, Maimonides instructs us on how to behave toward others, speak well of them, be concerned for their property, as we would like them to be concerned with ours. Or from the end of his vast Mishnah Torah in the 14th volume, the following Maimonides says, positive commands are implied in loving your neighbor. Visiting the sick, comforting the mourners, causing the bride and the bridegroom to rejoice. These constitute deeds of loving kindness performed in person for which no fixed measure is prescribed. And they are implied in the precept, "And you shall love your neighbor as yourself." Now, I happened to see a review in the New York Times just this past Wednesday, a review with the title, "An Ordinary Woman with Immense Courage," which is a new series, an 8-part series, I think, which tells the story of Miep Gies, who helped to hide Anne Frank and her family from the Nazis. That moment and much more about Gies's life and heroism is at the center of A Small Light, a new 8-part series that tells the story of Gies and her husband Jan, and their involvement in the Dutch resistance efforts during World War II. When in 1942, I'm reading from this article, Otto Frank asked Gies to help him hide him, his daughters, Anne and Margot, and his wife Edith, in an annex in their office, Gies did not hesitate before saying yes. She had no idea what she was saying yes to, and then she had to keep saying yes for 2 years, putting herself in grave danger. This was until the day in August 1944 when the Nazis raided the office and found 8 people, the Frank family and 4 others, hiding in the annex. In this series, A Small Light, Gies's decision to help despite the dangers and disruption this posed to her life, she kept the secret, she brought food and books and more. Her decision to help despite the dangers and disruption this posed for her life, her unwavering spirit, her reluctance to be seen as a hero, make the viewer ask, what would I have done in that situation? The show's title is taken from a quote by Gies. Even a regular secretary, a housewife, or a teenager can turn on a small light in a dark room. The moral question at the heart of Gies's story is whether to do the right thing or to do the wrong thing or to do nothing, has become in our own day even more important, given how war, nationalism, and anti-Semitism once again spread across Europe. As paradoxical as it may sound, by Gisa's actions, which embody love your neighbor as yourself, Gis sanctified the name of God and made what God stands for present, poignant, imperative in our world. We, finite, limited, fragile human beings, have the vocation, we are called to sanctify God's name. The Mighty One, the supreme being in the universe, waits for us to bring God's name in the world. Or as I might try to put it spatially, when we think of biblical religion, that which is above first sends imperatives which we are called to carry out. This passage reverses the order. The high depends on the fragile. First we act, then God's name is brought into the world. This paradox really captures what it means to be a caring human being in the world who stands for values that are eternal, aspirations that are perennial, deeds that are always calling us to enact them in the world. You shall faithfully observe my commandments. I, the Lord, you shall not profane my holy name, that I may be sanctified in the midst of the people. That's our calling. At this point in our service, we think about those members of our congregation, our families, our circle of friends who are ailing of body, of mind, of spirit. We have a list of people who are ailing, which I'm now going to read, and then give you an opportunity to mention those about whom you are thinking at this time. We think especially of Ed Broderick, Ella Dubrow, John Goodman, Maddie Jefferson, Jan Jones, Renee Keller, Sarah Bot Anshul Vimanya, Richard Moore, Cheryl Ross, Edith and Levi Rubenstein, Alan Schwartz, Bob Shippey. As my hand passes over your section of the congregation, please feel free to mention out loud or in the intimacy of your own heart those about whom you are thinking. Let us join together in the singing of the Mishaberach. You can find the words on page 253.
Mishaberach avoteinu mikor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Yisheberach imoteinu mikor habracha leavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We turn now in our prayer books to page 282, and as you are able, I invite you to rise for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא זמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו ככם, ויגור עלינו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. And we turn now to page 289 as we prepare for the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. We think especially now of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. We think especially of those members of our congregational family whom we lost during this past week: Kristen Gibbons, Etta Cantor, Sandra Charlene Wagger, and those who were laid to rest in the past 30 days: Arnold Robert Blitzer, Dr. Terrence Allen Messerman, Linda R. Palumbo, Ralph P. Sills, Bruce Diamond, Shirley Epler, Judith M. Goodman, Alan S. Hartman, Lois J. Cookie Morris, Elaine K. Rembrandt. And we take into our hearts those individuals whose yahrzeits occur at this time: Joseph Abrams, Harry Adele, Ernest Altschul, Mel Altschuler, Paul Lewis Angart, Edward Ahrens, William J. Bass, Lionel Benson, Jenny Berg, Aaron Max Berkowitz, Leonard M. Bialowski, Louis A. Bloomfield, Hinia Nisman Bonder, Ben T. Cohn, Isidore R. Copperman, Dorothy R. Davis, Lena DeVay, Dorothy Applebaum Drost, Eva Dworkin, Caroline R. Eisenman, Dorothy Eisenstark, Dr. Harold Stein Feil, Charles R. Finn, Sidney C. Freed, Jean Newman Friedman, Aaron R. Goldman, Mattis Y. Goldman, Joseph M. Goldwasser, Sandra Goodman, Henry High Gray, Dr. Joseph W. Gray, Lottie W. Gray, Ernest T. Gross, Ricky L. Haber, Ferdinand Hanauer, Hedwig Hanauer, Morris H. Hausman, Rosetta Hayes, Stephen James Herman, James Arthur Hoffman, Barthold M. Holstein, Louis Horkheimer, Gilbert George Kaplan, Rhea C. Cates, Abe R. Kipperman, Caroline Klaus, Doris Lenore Klausner, Ann R. Klein, Belle Klein, Caroline Stone Copper, Julie Kravitz, Jacob Kronheim, Robert J. Lance, Dr. Benjamin Levine, Ethel R. Levine, Norma Davidson Levine, Issy Loeb, Stephen E. Lowy, Charlotte Molinas, Fred Martin, Oscar Michael Jr., Jean Rose Monis, Ludwig Muller, Patricia Ann Newman, Sidney S. Roberts, Joseph C. Rothbart, Jack P. Roth, Chuck Schall, Henry C. Shapoff, Alex L. Siegel, Annette Silverman, Ida Gimp Sperling, Ida Spiro, Sidney D. Stein, Joseph Stone, Edwin A. Strauss Jr., Selma Swartz, Nettie Toffler, Myron Bud Urdang, Edward Waldman, Grace Weidenthal, Maurice David Bud Weidenthal, Manuel Weinberger, Edward A. Weiskopf, Brian Elliott Werble, Pepe Newman Wiesenberger, Florence W. Wirtschafter, Dr. Samuel Zlotnick. If anyone at this point would like to make mention of a loved one or a friend whose yahrzeit you are observing, or who you are, especially with a certain intensity, remembering them at this time, please recite their names out loud or again in the intimacy of your hearts as my hand passes over your section of the congregation. And now I invite those who are observing the Shiva period, the first 7 days after the death of a loved one, if you wish to please rise. Those who are observing the Shloshim period, the first 30 days after the death of a loved one, if you wish, please rise. And those who are observing the yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of a loved one, will you please rise? And now, as a caring congregation, let us all rise as together we sanctify the name of our God with the words of the Kaddish found in your prayer books on page 294. As we say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomeichon v'chayedechol beit Yisrael, Ba'agalav izman kari v'yamru amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach le'olam olamei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei v'kudashah b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran b'yalma v'yamru amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yamru amen. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us, and let us say together, amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. At this point, we always turn to joy, to happiness, to fulfillment. I'd like to invite those who are and have experienced a particular Shehecheyanu moment, a moment of joy in recent days or weeks, to raise your hand and or come forward and tell us.
Last week, my painting got burned, and my cousin from New Jersey got married.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov, mazel tov. Others who would like to tell us about something wonderful that has happened in your life? Renee?
Wow.
Great, very good.
Your granddaughter was married on the top of a mountain? Skiing. She got married skiing down a mountain in Utah. I would have liked to have been invited to that wedding.
She was married on that mountain, wasn't she? Or skied on it in her wedding dress.
Wow.
Yeah. Others? And I always like, yes, please, again.
Wow, mazel tov.
Granddaughter graduating from the Ohio University School of Nursing.
Journalism.
Of what?
Journalism.
Journalism.
She was thinking
They're
about
close, aren't they?
Rabbi, I have something to share.
Oh, please.
I have two friends, one who I've known for a few years and one who I just met tonight, who's a new friend. But I have two friends who are here with my daughter, and I would like to just share with everybody in the congregation and those watching, not only is it their very first Jewish worship service, but it's the first time they've ever been in a temple. And I want to invite and welcome Ashley Savoy and Tamaya Potter. Is it pronounced Potter? Yes, Tamaya Potter. And they're lovely, lovely ladies, so accomplished, so kind, so thoughtful. But I have to say one thing about Tamaya, and that is that in a few days, Tamaya is going to be graduating from medical school at Case Western Reserve University.
Oh, nice. Mazel tov.
Yeah, it gets better. Wait. She matched.
Can it get better?
Listen to this. Tamaya matched in Vanderbilt's neurosurgery residency program. She has now become the first black woman in the neurosurgical program in Vanderbilt's history. So Tamaya will teach you the words Mazal Tov. Mazel Tov. Congratulations, Tamaya.
Yes, Maida? Could you?
For our friends at home on the live stream who couldn't hear, Maida had a very bad round with COVID, but she is so grateful to members of this congregation who reached out to her, sent her soup, called her, made sure she was doing well, and thank God you're feeling better.
Great. Yes, Becky?
I have a new nephew.
You what?
Becky Sebo has a new nephew.
Oh, very good.
You'll tell me all.
All right.
I said it a few weeks ago. Well, I don't have a new nephew. You have a new nephew.
Let us sing the Shehechianu together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
That wine gladdens the human heart. Let's join together in the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam b'harei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'yirat V'Shabbat kodsho b'ahavav ratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereishit ki hu yom tehila l'mikrah kodesh zeichel tiyat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta yotam Shabbat kodecha b'ahava uvratzon hinachaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
And the motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
A little slice for you. And it says here that we're closing the service with not only a Don Olam, but a Don Olam medley.
That is true,
And
Rabbi.
Sibo is going to introduce it.
Thanks so much, Rabbi. So, there's hundreds of melodies for Adon Olam. Hundreds. And I picked 6 tonight. Each one, representing the 5 verses plus a little extra. So I just want to tell you, you're going to hear a lot of different periods and origins. The first melody you're going to hear is by Cantor Salomon Sulzer, who was born in 1804 in Austria. The second verse you're going to hear is attributed to Cantor Eliezer Gerevich. I think you know both of these melodies. He was born in 1844 in Russia. The third verse is Uzi Hitman, singer-songwriter from Israel, who was born in 1952. Then there's a folk song version, don't know where it's from. And the last 2 versions are from composers who, thank goodness, are still alive and well. One is our own congregant, Jay Singer, and the last one is by Beth Stiles, a composer whose music you've enjoyed here. So, if you follow along on the blue sheet, and at the end, please tell Rabbi Klein which one you like the best.
And I will give them a test on them.
All right, so we're going to give this a try, and it'll be done within 30 minutes, I promise. Adon olam asher malach b'terem koyetir nivra leit nasa b'chefzo kol azay melech shemo nikra v'acharei ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא וכו היה וכו הווה וכו יהיה בתפארה וכו אחד ואין שני להמשילו להכבירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית, ולא העוז ולא העוז והמשרה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא חיה וכו חווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא חיה וכו חווה בתפארה, והוא חיה וכו חווה בתפארה. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, והוא אלי וחי גואלי וצור חבלי בעת צרה. אדון עולם והוא ניסי ומנוס לי מנת וסיב. אדון עולם אדון עולם אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם. יא לי 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 יא לי 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 akiruhi ve'eti shan bi'ayira ve'imruhi ki'vi'ati Adonai li ve'lo'ira lai lai ya lai 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 ya lai 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 ya lai 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 ya lai 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 na 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 ya na 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 na. אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, all that is and ever was came to be because of your love, and your love shines on and on. You are Adon Olam, oh, your love lives on and on. Thank you, Adon Olam, na 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 na. You know these words. Ya na 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 na, ya na 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 na, ya na 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 na. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem goy yitzir nivra. Adon Olam asher malach b'terem goy yitzir nivra. Love lives on and on. You are Adon Olam. Love lives on and on forever and ever. Adon Olam. Love lives on and on. You are Adon Olam. Yes, your love lives on and on. Thank you, Adon Olam. Thank you, Adon Olam. Thank you, Adon Olam. Always was, forever will be. Adon Olam. Thank you, Rabbi, for allowing us that medley. Thank you, everyone, for joining in.
You know, the many Adon Olams reminds me of a conversation I had with a congregant, some years ago. A congregant came up to me when we had sung one that she or he, I can't remember who, said to me, "Can't we sing the traditional Adon Olam?" And I said to her, "Hum a couple of bars." And she did. I said, "Oh, you mean the one written in 1976? When people talk about traditional, they think Middle Ages, back to Mount Sinai. 20 years old already becomes the traditional Adon Olam. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yavarechet amo v'shalom. May the Lord give strength to God's people. May the Lord bless all of God's peoples with the blessings of shalom, of peace. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.